The deep void of space was quiet when the scanners on the edge of the Sol system caught a signal. It was weak, old, and impossible. A Terran Navy Watch officer stared at the blinking light on his screen. The code was authentic, but belonged to a warship lost 200 years ago. The name flickered once, then twice. TSS Horizon. Every file said the ship had been destroyed in a battle far from Earth. Yet the signal came closer with every second. On Earth, the emergency channel activated. Commanders and analysts filled a dark control room, their faces pale in the glow of the monitors. No one wanted to believe it. The Horizon had been a legend of sacrifice. Now it was back, moving slowly toward the inner planets. It broadcast no message except its ID. Its engines ran on power signatures that did not match any known Terran design. No crew voices, no automated beacons, only silence and that name. A small scout vessel was sent first. Its pilot, Lieutenant Mason, approached with caution. Through the cockpit glass he saw the outline of the cruiser. Its hull was black, like burned metal, but it reflected tiny silver sparks as if stars were trapped inside. The ship's old Terran flag was still there, but warped and stretched as if it had melted. Mason's hands trembled. He had read about the Horizon in school. It had vanished in a region of space no one entered anymore, a region marked as forbidden by every chart. Now it drifted back like a ghost. Command gave one order: board and investigate. A full recovery team launched from Mars Station, their dropship attaching to the silent cruiser. The sound of magnetic clamps echoed through their suits. When the hatch opened, stale air rolled out. It smelled of dust and metal. The corridor lights flickered to life on their own. The team moved in, their boots leaving prints on a layer of fine black ash. Captain Alara, leader of the boarding team, spoke softly into her mic. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. The ship's corridors looked familiar from old schematics, but everything was stretched, curved, like the ship had been rebuilt by something that did not understand human shapes. Bulkheads bent at odd angles. Doors were wider, ceilings higher, and there were strange glowing patterns etched into the walls. They pulsed faintly, like breathing. In the control center they found chairs for a crew that was no longer there. Screens showed symbols no one could read. In the captain's seat lay a single Terran uniform, empty, with no sign of a body. Yet the fabric was warm, as if someone had just left. On the floor, a black sphere rolled gently with the motion of the ship. It made no sound but emitted a thin beam of light scanning the air. When a technician touched it with a gloved hand, the beam shifted and projected an image of unknown stars. Back on Earth, scientists watched the live feed. Data streamed faster than they could record. Energy readings were off every scale. If even a small part of this technology was real, it could change everything: power, travel, even war. But one question burned in everyone's mind: what had the Horizon met out there, and where were its people now? The team moved deeper. The engine room was not a Terran engine room anymore. It was a vast open chamber filled with a dark liquid like glass. In the center floated a huge crystal structure turning slowly without support. Each turn made a low sound like a heartbeat. Symbols rose from the liquid and hovered in the air. Captain Alara's visor fogged from her breath. She could feel something watching them, though her sensors showed nothing alive. Suddenly the ship shifted. The deck vibrated under their boots. The doors they had passed closed by themselves. The crystal glowed brighter, and a deep voice, not human, echoed in their helmets. It spoke no known language, but it carried a tone of warning. One of the team members panicked and tried to run back, but the corridor behind had become a smooth wall. In the control room on Earth alarms blared. The Horizon's engines, or whatever powered it now, were starting up. The cruiser was no longer drifting. It had a course, but not toward Earth or Mars. It was aiming beyond the edge of the system, to somewhere no Terran map showed. Captain Alara steadied her team. She sent a final message: "We are still on board. The ship is moving. Systems not ours. We think it knows we're here." Static cut her off. The feed blurred. For a heartbeat, the cameras showed something in the crystal reflection. Tall shapes, not human, standing close to the team though no one saw them directly. Then the transmission ended. On Earth, leaders argued. Should they try to stop the cruiser, destroy it, or follow it? Some saw danger. Others saw opportunity. Ordinary people only saw the headlines. Lost Terran cruiser returns. Impossible technology found. Boarding team missing. The story gripped every screen. No one slept easy that night. Above them all, the horizon moved silently toward the dark beyond Neptune. Its hull glimmered like a wound in space, carrying secrets older than humanity and a choice no one yet understood. The horizon passed Neptune and entered deep space again. Its engines glowed with a soft blue light no human ship had ever produced. On Earth, the command center worked without rest. Every screen showed the lost cruiser moving farther away. They had no contact with Captain Elara's team. Only the last static-filled message repeated on a loop. Families of the crew watched with fear, asking questions no one could answer. Admiral Kerr, the oldest officer still in service, stood at the center of the room. He had once been a young pilot when the horizon first vanished 2 centuries ago. His eyes were dark now, but he still remembered the stories. The cruiser had been sent on a mission into forbidden space to answer a distress call from an unknown source. It had never returned. Now it had come back by itself. "We cannot let it go again," he said quietly. "If it leaves the system, we may never see it." But stopping it was not simple. The cruiser's new engines made it faster than any Terran ship. And no one understood its power source. Scientists whispered of wormholes, dark energy, or even alien possession. The president ordered a fleet to launch anyway. Every warship in the Sol Defense Force moved to intercept. At the same time, secret groups on Earth tried to hack the horizon's strange signals, hoping to steal whatever knowledge it carried. Inside the ship, Captain Elara's team was still alive but scattered. The corridors shifted while they moved. A hallway that once led to the med bay now opened into a huge chamber filled with floating shapes of light. The team's helmets recorded everything. Elara tried to guide them back to the docking port, but the port was gone. The ship's interior had changed completely, like a living maze. Lieutenant Mason found himself separated from the others. He walked slowly, his flashlight sweeping across walls that seemed to breathe. The glowing patterns on the metal shifted as if reading his thoughts. He passed a window and stopped. Outside was not the black of space. He saw a swirl of colors, bright and endless, like a tunnel. Stars twisted and bent. He touched the glass and felt no cold. His suit sensors failed. He realized the ship was no longer in normal space. In another section, 2 technicians opened a door and stepped into what looked like a Terran nursery. Toys floated in the air, but they were wrong. Too sharp, too smooth, and moving on their own. The walls played soft music, but it was a melody that made their hearts race. One of them whispered, "This ship is remembering its crew, but not in the right way." Then the toys stopped and pointed at them as if watching. They backed out quickly. Captain Elara reached what had been the engine room. Now it was a vast sphere of darkness with a single path leading to the crystal core. The core pulsed like a heart. She could feel something calling her name though no sound was in her ears. She tried to send another message to Earth, but her comms only hissed. She saw Mason's video feed flicker, showing the strange tunnel outside. "It's moving us somewhere," she said softly. "Not by our choice." Back on Earth, the fleet prepared to fire warning shots. But the horizon ignored every signal. It accelerated again. Sensors showed space folding ahead of it, like a gate opening. The fleet's lead ship, the Atlas, fired a missile. It passed through the horizon without effect, as if the cruiser was only a shadow. Then, for a second, the horizon sent out a burst of light. Every Terran ship's systems went dark. Engines shut off. Weapons froze. Crews floated powerless while the lost cruiser continued. Admiral Kerr slammed his hand on the console. "It just disarmed the entire fleet without firing once," he said. His voice was low, but everyone heard the fear. If it wanted to destroy us, it could. But it hasn't. News of the event spread across Earth and the colonies. Some people called the Horizon a savior, bringing back knowledge to lift humanity higher. Others called it a curse, a vessel carrying alien control. Protests erupted. Secret cults formed overnight, claiming the ship was a sign of humanity's next step. Governments struggled to keep control. Inside the cruiser, Mason finally reached a chamber filled with stasis pods. Some were broken, some intact. He shone his light inside one. A human face stared back, eyes open but unseeing, skin marked with faint glowing lines. He stumbled back in shock. The name tag read, Commander Eris, the first officer of the Horizon 200 years ago. The man's chest rose once, then stopped. A faint voice whispered in Mason's head, "We traded time for life. We traded shapes for passage." Mason fell to his knees. The ship vibrated again. Lights flared. The crystal core at the center began to open like a flower, revealing a hollow space inside. Something was moving there, tall and thin, its form shifting like smoke and metal. It turned toward the camera on Mason's helmet. For a moment its face was human, then not. Captain Alara's voice came through faintly. "Everyone hold position. Do not provoke it. We're not alone on this ship." Her hands shook, but she raised her weapon anyway. Outside, the Horizon reached the edge of the system. Ahead, a storm of light opened like a wound in space. It was not a wormhole any Terran had ever seen. It pulsed with shapes of unknown stars. The ship tilted and began to enter. Terran ships drifted powerless behind it, unable to follow. On Earth, Admiral Kerr whispered, "It's going home." But whose home? The Horizon crossed the threshold and vanished. Only a fading signal remained, carrying one word in an unknown language, repeated again and again. No one could translate it, but listeners said it sounded like a plea. The Horizon did not fall apart when it passed through the storm of light. Instead, the strange glow wrapped around the cruiser like liquid and then broke into millions of tiny sparks. The boarding team felt a sudden weightlessness. Their stomachs turned. Suits went dark for a heartbeat and then came back. When the lights in their helmets returned, they were no longer looking at normal stars. Outside the windows was a black sky full of giant shapes. They were not planets or moons but floating fragments of stone and metal, each as large as a city. They hung in silence, glowing faintly like embers. Some were joined by bridges of light. A great ring spun slowly around a dark sun at the center. The Horizon drifted toward it without engines firing. No one on board had control. It was as if an invisible hand guided the ship. Captain Alara steadied herself against the curved wall. Her comms crackled with voices of the scattered team. "Sound off. Stay calm. Stay together," she said. One by one they answered. Mason's voice was weak but steady. "I'm still in the pod chamber. The pods are changing." A technician whispered about corridors closing behind them. Someone else said they could hear music, though their suit mics were off. Ilara reached a large observation deck. She had studied every blueprint of the Horizon before the mission. This room had never existed. The ceiling rose like the inside of a cathedral. Symbols of light floated in the air like slow snowflakes. She felt a pressure behind her eyes as if the symbols wanted her to understand them. For a moment she saw flashes, a battlefield under alien stars, ships not built by humans, and a great gate opening. Then it was gone. On Earth the control center erupted. They had lost all live video but still received bursts of strange data from the cruiser. Computers filled with unreadable symbols. Some scientists swore they could see patterns of star maps in the noise. Admiral Kerr stood stiff. "We are blind," he said. "We don't know where they are or what they're facing." Secret agencies scrambled to decode the new data, believing it was a roadmap to other worlds. Inside the ship, Mason's fear grew. The stasis pods had begun to glow. One opened with a hiss, and a thin mist floated out. The figure inside sat up slowly. His skin was pale with faint glowing lines like circuitry. His eyes were human but distant. "Commander Eris?" Mason asked. The man turned his head. "We crossed the veil," he said in a dry whisper. "The ship made us into keys." Before Mason could speak again, Eris dissolved into a stream of light and vanished. Elsewhere, two technicians entered a hall filled with pillars. Each pillar held an object from Earth, a book, a child's toy, an old flag, a broken helmet. The objects floated inside fields of light. The technicians realized these were memories of the original crew, collected and reshaped by something else. One of them reached toward a field and felt a sharp pain in her mind. Images of alien worlds flashed before her eyes. She pulled back, trembling. Captain Alara pressed forward to the core. The crystal heart she had seen before was now open like a flower. Inside floated a tall being made of shifting metal and mist. It had no fixed face. When she looked at it, she saw many faces at once, some human, some not. A voice filled her mind without sound. "You came after our call. You stayed. You changed. Now you are too." Ilara tried to speak, but her throat closed. She felt a memory that was not hers, a young officer on the horizon 200 years ago, answering a signal from this same dark sun. The crew had gone in, had been altered, had become part of the ship. They had left a call for help, but the call had kept echoing through time until Terrans heard it again. She realized the plea had never stopped. Back near the dark sun, the great ring began to glow. Streams of light rose from the fragments of stone around it and joined like rivers. The horizon drifted into the center of the ring. Ilara felt the deck vibrate. Her team gathered, drawn by some unseen pull. Mason appeared, pale and shaking. "The ship is asking us something," he whispered. "It wants us to answer." On Earth, deep underground, the secret decoding group found a pattern in the new data. It was not a star map, but a message. When they rendered it into sound, a voice emerged, faint, layered, impossible. It spoke in a language no one knew, but the tone was like a question. Inside the horizon, the symbols of light swirled faster. Ilara felt them press into her mind. She saw a choice: open the gate and follow, or close it forever. She saw glimpses of technology far beyond human reach: free energy, instant travel, healing of any wound. She also saw images of war, planets burning, civilizations falling. The knowledge could save humanity or destroy it. Her team looked at her, waiting. None of them knew what she was seeing. "It's offering us something," she said slowly. "Or it's testing us. Maybe both." The tall being moved closer. For a moment it looked exactly like Ilara herself. It raised a hand made of light. A second hand reached from the crystal core and touched the deck. The ship shuddered. Outside, the dark sun flared once. The ring began to spin faster. Far away, the data feed on Earth stopped completely. Only one image flashed on every screen, a human hand made of light reaching out. Then black. Ilara closed her eyes. Around her the team held their breath. The horizon entered the center of the ring. The sound of a heartbeat filled every corridor. They had crossed the point of no return. The horizon passed fully into the ring of light. At once, everything around the ship went silent. No hum of engines, no flicker of panels. Even the crew's own breathing sounded far away inside their helmets. Outside the windows there was no space, no stars, only a gray mist stretching forever. The cruiser floated like a single island in a sea of fog. Captain Alara's visor showed no readings. Her compass spun slowly, useless. She and the others stood in a wide chamber that had not existed a moment before. The walls were smooth and silver, curving upward with no seams. A low glow pulsed from the floor under their boots, as if something alive beat beneath them. In the center stood a tall arch of light. It shifted between shapes: doorway, gate, mirror. The being from the crystal was gone. Yet Ilara felt it still, like a presence behind her eyes. Mason clutched his helmet with both hands. "It's inside my head," he whispered. "It's showing me things." He saw flashes of vast ships moving through tunnels of light, cities floating over dark suns, humans walking side by side with beings of metal and mist. Then he saw fire swallowing those same cities. He fell to his knees, shaking. Ilara knelt beside him. "Stay with me. Breathe. We're still ourselves," she said, though her own mind buzzed with strange images. Around them the other team members drifted closer, drawn to the arch symbols of light rose from the floor and circled each of them, like threads weaving a net. On Earth, the world stared at black screens. The feed from the horizon had ended, but the ship itself had not returned. Radar showed nothing beyond Neptune. Yet strange pulses hit Terran communication networks every few minutes. They carried no code anyone could read, but when played as sound they formed a single soft tone, like a heartbeat. People began to call it the pulse. News anchors spoke in hushed voices. Protests turned to vigils. Some called the pulse a threat, others prayed to it. In a hidden bunker, Admiral Kerr sat with scientists and decoded fragments. He rubbed his temples. "They are somewhere between spaces," one physicist said. "Not in our universe, not in theirs." Kerr stared at the faint waveform of the pulse. "They wanted our help," he said quietly. "We may be the test, not them." Inside the mist chamber, the arch of light opened wider. A shape formed inside it, a landscape under a dark sky, towers of glass rising from a sea. At the center floated a sphere like a second sun. The being's voice filled Ilara's mind again. "Choice binds. Path divides. What you take you carry forever." Ilara understood in fragments. The horizon had been drawn here centuries ago by a call for help. The crew had entered this realm and had been changed into something else. Part human, part key. They had tried to reach out, but time flowed differently here. Their call had echoed until Terrans heard it long after. Now she and her team were at the same point. They could open the way fully and bring this power back, or close it forever and leave it sealed. Mason rose slowly, his face pale. "If we bring it back, we give humanity everything. Travel, energy, cures," he said. "But we also give it weapons we can't control." Another team member, a young engineer named Talia, shook her head. "If we close it, we waste everything the Horizon crew suffered for. Maybe this was meant to be found." Ilara looked at the arch. The mist inside now showed two paths. One glowed gold, leading back to a vision of the solar system, earth blue and bright. The other glowed dark, leading deeper into a maze of stars no one knew. Her hands trembled. The symbols of light pressed harder around her, urging her to decide. Back on Earth, the pulse changed. It became a series of beats, like a question. In cities and ships people heard it and felt something stir inside. Curiosity, fear, a strange longing. A boy in a far colony drew pictures of gates and stars he had never seen. An old woman woke from a dream speaking in a language no one understood. Humanity itself was beginning to feel the horizon's reach. Inside the chamber Ilara stepped toward the arch. Her visor fogged from her breath. She could feel every heartbeat of her team. "We can't answer for all of humanity," she said softly. "But we can't run from it either." She reached out a gloved hand. The light curved around her fingers like water. The being appeared again beside the arch. It no longer shifted. It now had a single face, her own, but older, eyes filled with stars. It spoke without sound. "You are the bridge. You decide the road." Ilara turned to her team. "If we open this, we may never go home. If we close it, everything ends here. I won't order you. You choose with me." One by one the team stepped closer. Mason raised his hand first. "I'll follow." Talia nodded. Others whispered agreements. The arch flared, bright as a sun. The mist rolled back, showing endless corridors of light. On Earth, all signals spiked at once. Screens across the world lit up with the image of a hand reaching into light. People held their breath. The pulse stopped. For the first time in days there was silence. Inside the horizon Alara closed her eyes and stepped through. Alara stepped through the arch and felt the floor vanish. For a heartbeat there was only falling, like drifting through deep water. Then her boots touched solid ground again. The air was warm and thin. She blinked. Around her rose towers of glass and metal under a dark sky streaked with green fire. The sea below glowed like liquid stars. The world was silent except for a slow wind that carried whispers she could not understand. Her team stumbled out behind her. Mason looked up at the towers. "This isn't space," he said softly. "It's a place." His voice echoed strangely, as if the city itself was listening. Talia reached down and touched the glowing sand. It pulsed once under her glove like a heartbeat. "We're inside something," she murmured. "Or it's inside us." Above them the horizon hung in the sky, small but still whole, floating like a black shard. The arch they had passed through shimmered and then closed. A faint ripple spread across the towers. Lights flickered to life in windows that had been dark. Shapes moved behind the glass, tall, thin figures that shifted like mist. They did not come out, but they watched. Alara turned slowly. "Stay together," she ordered. "No weapons unless we're attacked." Her own heart raced. Every instinct told her this city was alive. She heard a low hum rising from the towers. Symbols appeared in the air, forming a path of light leading away from the sea toward a vast hall at the city's center. Without speaking, they all began to follow. Back on Earth, the pulse returned, louder and faster. It rolled through every network, through ship radios and home speakers, even through old devices that had been shut off. People across the solar system felt their dreams fill with the same image, a dark city and a path of light. Some woke crying. Others woke smiling. The governments could not stop it. Even Admiral Kerr heard it in his sleep. "They've crossed over," he whispered to himself. "Now the question begins." Inside the city the team reached the hall. Its doors were high as mountains, carved from metal that glowed faintly blue. When Alara approached they opened without sound. Inside was a chamber so large the roof was lost in shadow. At its center floated a sphere of shifting light. Around it stood the tall beings they had glimpsed, more than 100, silent, their forms flickering between human and alien shapes. Mason's breath caught. "They're the Horizon crew," he said. "Or what's left." One figure stepped forward. Its face was half Commander Eris, half something else. It spoke directly into their minds. "We called for help. You answered. But help has two edges." Alara swallowed. "What is this place?" she asked aloud. "A bridge," the voice said. "Between worlds. We found it and were changed. We became its keepers. It needs a new key, or it will fade. If it fades, both sides drift apart forever." The sphere of light pulsed. Images filled Alara's mind, ships leaping between stars in an instant, healing machines, cities without hunger. Then images of war, power misused, entire worlds burning. "Knowledge without balance destroys," the voice said. "We offer you the bridge. But your species must carry its weight." The team stood silent. Talia whispered, "They're asking us to choose for all humanity." Alara's throat was dry. "If we say yes, you will not return the same," the voice answered. "You will be the path. The bridge opens through you. Humanity will walk it, but not without cost." Mason clenched his fists. "If we say no, the bridge closes. This place will vanish. The knowledge will be lost. Your world will remain alone. Safer, slower, but alone." The sphere dimmed. The beings waited. The hall was silent but heavy with meaning. Alara looked at her team. She thought of Earth, the protests, the fear, the longing. She thought of the original Horizon crew who had tried to do the same 2 centuries ago and become trapped. They asked for help, she whispered. Maybe the only way to help them is to finish what they started. Talia stepped forward. Then we don't run. Mason nodded, eyes wet. We don't run. One by one the team moved closer to the sphere. Ilara reached out a hand. The light was warm, like sunlight on her skin. It flowed up her arm, through her chest, into her mind. She felt herself stretch, seeing stars, seeing futures, feeling 1,000 heartbeats at once. She heard a whisper that was both warning and promise. Once you take the bridge, you cannot turn back. Back on Earth, the pulse changed into a clear tone like a bell. Across the solar system people stopped and looked up, not knowing why. The sky above Earth flickered for a moment like a mirror of stars. In deep space Admiral Kerr's fleet saw a ripple open where nothing had been. Inside it glimmered corridors of light. In the hall Ilara opened her eyes. Her suit was gone. She stood in the same place but her skin glowed faintly. She could see the shape of the bridge stretching between worlds. She turned to her team. It's starting, she said softly. Hold on. The sphere brightened until it filled the hall. The beings stepped back. The city trembled. A sound like a heartbeat and a drum rolled through the mist. The bridge was opening. The hall shook as the sphere of light expanded. Threads of brightness rose from the floor and wrapped around Ilara and her team. It felt like warm wind and cold water at the same time. Mason gasped. Talia shut her eyes. None of them could move. The tall beings, the Changed Horizon crew, stood back, their forms flickering faster as if they were both here and somewhere far away. Outside the hall, the city stirred. Towers lit up one by one like candles. The sea of glowing stars below sent up slow spirals of light. The whole place seemed to breathe. Overhead, the black sky cracked open, showing a tunnel of endless corridors stretching toward distant suns. Ilara felt each corridor touch her mind. She saw Earth, Mars, the colonies, all waiting unknowingly at the other end. Back in the solar system, the pulse vanished. For a heartbeat there was total silence. Then every ship, every station, every screen showed a single image, a road of light leading away from Earth. People gasped. Some cried. Some reached toward the sky as if they could touch it. Admiral Kerr's fleet saw the same thing on their sensors, a vast gate opening near Neptune where there had been nothing. It was shaped like the arch Ilara had walked through. On the alien world, Ilara's boots left the floor. She floated upward, still inside the net of threads. Her body glowed faintly, but she did not feel pain. She felt weightless, filled with an endless hum. The sphere's voice filled her mind. Bridge accepts. Bridge binds. Bridge remembers. Mason floated beside her. Ilara. I see them, he whispered. The old crew. They're walking with us. He saw flashes of people in old Terran uniforms reaching across the light, their faces calm. They're not trapped, he realized. They're part of it. The city's tall beings spoke in one voice that was both human and not. You are the first of the next. Choose what you will show. Ilara did not understand at first. Then she saw her own thoughts forming shapes in the corridors, a memory of her mother's face, the blue of Earth's oceans, the sound of rain. Each thought became a strand of the bridge. Mason's memories joined hers, a street in Mars colony, a smell of metal and dust. Talia's thoughts added more. The bridge was not just a machine. It was a path built from who they were. Back on Earth, scientists scrambled as readings spiked. A wormhole unlike any on record bloomed near Neptune, stable, wide, and pulsing. Energy readings were off every scale. Some leaders demanded it be destroyed before anything came through. Others shouted to hold fire. Civilian ships rushed to the edge to watch. News anchors whispered, "Something is opening." Inside the hall the sphere dimmed and the threads fell away. Ilara landed softly. Her suit had reformed around her but felt lighter. She looked at her hands. They glowed faintly like the beings around her. Mason steadied himself. "What now?" he asked. The nearest being, Commander Eris's half-human face, stepped forward. "Now you walk," it said. It reached out and touched Ilara's chest with a finger of light. A flood of images rushed through her mind, gates opening across space, humans stepping into new worlds, some reaching peace, others falling to greed. The bridge shows the way. It does not choose the steps. Ilara's throat was dry. "Will we go home?" "Home is changed," the voice said. "You carry the door inside you. Wherever you go, it will follow." The hall began to dissolve. The towers outside faded into mist. The sea of stars below rose like a tide. One by one the beings of light vanished, leaving only faint echoes. The sphere folded into itself and became a small crystal floating before Ilara. She caught it in her palm. It pulsed once, warm and alive. Back in the solar system, Admiral Kerr watched in awe as the gate near Neptune flared bright and solid. On its surface appeared shapes of strange cities, alien skies, and then the unmistakable figure of a Terran woman in a suit glowing faintly with light. Ilara. She raised a hand. No sound came through, only the image. "It's her," someone whispered. "She's at the gate." Ilara turned to her team. "We can step through now," she said. "But if we do, we'll be the first. Earth will see us. They'll know it's real." Mason looked back at the fading city. "And if we stay?" Talia answered softly, "Then the bridge closes and everything ends here." Ilara closed her fingers around the crystal. She felt its pulse match her heartbeat. She thought of Earth, of people staring at the sky, of the fear and hope building across the system. She looked at her team. "We've come this far," she said quietly. "We can't turn back." Together they walked toward a new arch that had opened at the hall's far end. It led not into mist but into a corridor of light stretching directly toward the gate near Neptune. Ilara felt the pull. She stepped forward. On Earth the gate shimmered. Reporters and soldiers held their breath. The arch inside it glowed brighter. For the first time a human shape began to emerge from the other side. The gate near Neptune boiled with light. Fleets of Terran ships hung silent, their weapons cold, their crews staring at the impossible corridor opening before them. Civilians in small craft floated nearby, recording every second. On every world, from Earth cities to Mars's domes, screens showed the same live image, a human figure glowing faintly with light walking toward them from inside the gate. Ilara stepped forward. The corridor of light stretched behind her into the mist where the alien city had faded. Beside her Mason, Talia and the rest of the team walked slowly, their suits shimmering with faint symbols. In Ilara's palm the small crystal pulsed like a living heart. She could feel the bridge inside herself, a pull toward home and a pull toward endless stars. On the Terran flagship, Admiral Kerr stood at the window. His old hands shook but his eyes were steady. "They're coming through," he whispered. Around him, officers held their breath. No one knew if this was a rescue or an invasion. The ship's weapons tracked but stayed silent. The president's voice came over a secure line. "Hold fire. We see what they bring first." The team reached the edge of the gate. For a heartbeat they were shadows against blinding light. Then they stepped out into normal space again. The black of the solar system wrapped around them, stars cold and sharp. Gravity returned. Alarms flared across the fleet as sensors struggled to read them. Ilara raised a hand slowly, palm outward. "We're alive," her voice came through, soft but clear on every channel. "We're coming home." But even as she spoke, the gate behind her did not close. It widened, rippling like water. Through it Terrans could see glimpses of other skies, green oceans, silver deserts, towers floating above clouds. The corridor of light stretched away into infinity. The bridge was open. Mason whispered over the comm. "We did it." Yet his eyes were wet. Talia looked at the fleet and then back at the gate. "They don't know what this means," she said softly. "They can't yet." On Earth, billions watched in stunned silence. Some fell to their knees. Some cheered. Some screamed in fear. Scientists spoke of a new age. Soldiers muttered about new wars. Children pointed at the sky and asked if they could go there. Admiral Kerr's voice came back on the open channel. Captain Ilara. Report. What is the bridge? His tone was formal, but behind it was an old man's tremor. Ilara looked down at the crystal in her hand. She thought of the alien city, of the beings who had once been human, of the warning and the promise. It's a road, she said simply. It's everything. It's a choice. The gate pulsed. A low hum spread through every ship, through every radio and speaker. It was the pulse again, but now it was clear, like a heartbeat mixed with a bell. It filled people's chests with both hope and dread. The light of the gate cast long shadows across the fleet. Mason leaned close. They'll try to control it, he whispered. They'll fight over it. Ilara nodded. That's why we're here first. She raised the crystal high. Its glow matched the gates. This is the key, she said on the open channel. The bridge listens to the ones who opened it. Not to weapons. Not to greed. Only to those who walk with balance. For a moment, the entire system was silent. Then the first civilian ship near Neptune sent a single word across every frequency. Welcome. Others followed. Messages poured in from colonies and stations. Cheers, prayers, questions, promises. But deep inside those messages was also fear. The horizon floated nearby, silent and black, its hull shimmering with faint symbols. It was no longer just a cruiser. It was part of the bridge now, a permanent doorway between worlds. The original crew were gone, but their choice had been finished. Ilara looked at her team. We can't decide for everyone, she said quietly. But we can guide it. We can show the first steps. Mason managed a thin smile. And hope the rest learn. She turned toward the gate. The images inside shifted, alien cities, bright corridors, shapes of beings waiting. It felt like standing on the edge of a vast ocean. She knew once humanity entered, nothing would be the same. Admiral Kerr's voice came one last time, softer now. Captain, do you believe this will save us? Ilara thought of the visions she had seen, worlds healed, worlds burning. It can, she said. But only if we choose well. She lowered the crystal. The gate's light bent toward her like a bowing flame. The corridor widened enough for 1,000 ships. Beyond it, stars no human had ever mapped waited. She turned back to the fleet. Send no weapons, she said. Send minds. Send hearts. The bridge is open. Her team gathered beside her. Together they looked at the gate, at Earth beyond the sun, at the future rushing toward them. No one spoke. In the silence the pulse beat once more, strong and clear, like the first heartbeat of something newborn. And then, with the eyes of a whole species upon them, Captain Ilara and her crew stepped aside and held the way open.